In this tutorial, we'll be collecting FAO data on olives and bringing that data into our spreadsheet, cleaning up the data, and then importing it into the database. We'll then create a query and a report to show olive production per region, per country. So let's go ahead, we'll open up the syllabus. And from the syllabus, we can get to the olive data. It's in line number 6. I'll right-click, open in a new tab. This will take us to the UN data, and we'll need to change the columns we're going to be collecting. In this case, go over to the left, and where it says Apply Filters, just above it says More. Click on that. In this table, there's actually 3 pieces of data. There's area harvested, yield, and production. We'll be interested in one of these. We'll be taking the production quantity, how much olives are produced per country. Select that, and then apply the filter. That will update the table. And now we'll just be getting data on the production quantity. We'll be changing some of our columns. We'll say select columns. We won't need the element code, but we do need the country code. So we'll select columns, select the country code, and we can turn off the element code, and then push update. This code will help us tie all our data together. Okay, so let's go ahead and click download. We'll take this as a semicolon delimited file. Go ahead and save it. I'll save it in our culture folder and say save. I'll right-click on the file and we can unzip this. If you're in Ubuntu, you'll be able to just double-click and extract it. I'll say extract here. And this brings up the text file. Again, let's rename this olives and open it up in a text editor. I'll open it up here on Windows with EditPad Lite. You'll be using gedit. And we'll replace anything that has a quotation mark with nothing and replace all. Now we've cleaned out all those quotes, and I'll go ahead and say save. Also, we'll scroll down to the very bottom of this table, and there's going to be a little bit of extra information that we can highlight. Select that, backspace, and then backspace again so that your cursor is at the end of the data. You don't have an extra blank line down on the bottom. We can save this. Now do Control A and Control C to copy, and we'll open up our spreadsheet. Here we have our countries, regions, and so forth. Let's add a new sheet. We'll say insert sheet. This will be called olive production. We'll say OK. And now we can paste this in. It will ask us some questions. This is not tab delimited. It will be semicolon delimited. So select semicolon, and then we can go ahead and say OK. And here comes our data. So this looks pretty good. We'll throw away the final column. We don't need this. We can select it, edit, and delete cells. What will be important will be we'll change the name of the value column. I'll reselect this. We'll just say olives underscore tons. So we'll sort of be combining the product with the measurement. That means we can throw away this column. The year will be important. Production, we won't need that. We know we have production quantity in tons, so we can throw away the C column. The country column will have the country ID, the code, so we don't actually need the country name. We can delete this. And now let's just rename our columns. This will be country ID. Important, don't put any spaces in there. And olive tons should be fine. Year, let's just make this a lowercase year so we're consistent. Same thing with our olive and tons. We'll go ahead and make that lowercase o. Okay, now we can go ahead and say save. So we've cleaned up our data. We have each of the country IDs, and now what we'd like to do is bring this into our database. Let's do a Control A and Control C to copy. Open up our database and make sure you're in your table section. We'll right click and paste. This will be called olive production. We would like to keep the definition. We'll use the first line for the names. We'll say next. Country ID, we'll take country ID, year olive, we'll take all of these. Say next. The country ID will be an integer. The year, since it's only 4 numbers, can be actually a small integer. Leaves room for 5. We also want to make sure that's required. Again, for the country ID, make sure this is required. And olive and tons, this could be a big number, so we're going to select big int. This will give us more room, so we don't have to worry about a quantity that's too big. And we'll go ahead and say create. In this case, normally we would create our own primary key. Here, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and say yes, and we'll end up throwing this primary key away anyway. We won't need it, but it saves us some problems later on. Okay, so let's take a look at our olive production. And there we have our table. There's the extra ID field. What we'll do is we're going to throw that out. We'll create our own primary key between country ID and year. So how do we do that? Let's close the table. We'll right click and say edit. And we will right click and turn off the primary key for the first field. Select country ID, hold the shift button. That selects both of country ID and year. Right click and say primary key. This is a double column, makes the primary key. We'll save this. And we can also just simply throw away our first column. So I'll right click and say delete. And we'll save that. Okay, so now we have our table set up. Next step is to create the query, and then we'll use the query for our final report. Let's go to queries. Create a query in design view. We'll be using a query that we've already created, which is the region country. Select that. And then the table we'll be using will be olive production. We'll say close. Now, let's tie in our country ID with our country ID. So click and drag, and that will connect these two tables together. The information we're interested in will be the region, the country, the year, and the amount of olives. And what we'll do is we're going to want to select our data by year. So our criterion here, the criterion, we'll go ahead and put in a colon, and we'll say enter underscore year. This will be a prompt for somebody. They'll know that they need to put in the year value right here. Okay, let's just check it, see how this works. First we'll say save. This will be called QRY olive production. We'll say OK. Now we can test it. There's the run query button. It'll ask us for our region. So for example, if we do Europe, and we can put in our year, 2007, say OK. And this will return all the European countries and their olive production for that year. So that looks pretty good. We can close this up. Okay, we're almost done. Now we'll create our report. Click on reports, use the wizard to create report. In this case, we'll be using the olive production query for the base. We would like the region, the country, the year, the olives. We'll take all of those fields. Say next. Here, let's change the name so let's capitalize each one of these. So we'll have the region, we'll have the country, we'll have the year, we'll have olive production, olive in tons. Say next. We'll be grouping by region, and we'll also be grouping by year. Say next. We'd like to select the most productive countries, so we'll be picking olive in tons, and we'll do it in descending order. Let's put this in a portrait. We don't have that much data, so that should be fine. We'll say next. And now we'll just change the name where it says query. At the beginning, we'll do RPT for report, olive production, and we'll say finish. Put in our region. Put in our year. And now we can see that for the region of Asia, 2007, the largest producers were Turkey, we have Syria, Palestine, Jordan, and so forth, and they're ordered by the amount of production. We would like to clean this data up a little bit. Notice it's left justified. We'd like to make this right justified, and we'll also put some commas in here. So out of our numbers. Right-click on the report, say Edit. Once the report opens up, to format, we'll select alignment. We would like right justified. And we can also do the number format. And our number format will include commas. And that looks a lot better. So let's save that report. Close this up. We'll run it one more time, olive production. Put in our region. Put in our year. Run it. And now we see a nice ordered report, and we've got the number of tons per year. Okay, go ahead and create your report for olives. Thank you.